So I just finished filming a review of that '90s show. If you haven't seen it yet, I'll put the link here. But I did mention in that video that I was trying to make other projects and other videos, and I just remembered about one that I wanted to do, and that's with Apple announcing a new Mac Mini and a new MacBook, and apparently also a new HomePod, which I didn't know about till now. But I wanted to go over this kind of briefly because I didn't see the announcement. I didn't even know there was an announcement. My mother sent me a text about these new devices that were announced, and I just wanted to go over some quick things that I see here on their page, and my thoughts on the whole thing. Now, if you don't notice by now, if you haven't been following my channel, I do use a Mac Mini as my main desktop. I have a M1 Mac Mini from 2020, and it's not a bad computer at all. It's it only costs like 600 and some change when I got it. It's really great for what I needed to do. I don't have any like super heavy task that I need to perform with it. The only issues I had personally is with me having the smaller storage size because I couldn't afford the more larger storage. And only once I had a message that said, you're running too many things at once. You got to close a task to continue the other task. Only once that happened. So aside from that, my main issue with the storage of my Mac is mainly from iMovie because iMovie sucks. But I want to talk about these devices because these both the MacBook Pro and the new Mac Mini are going to be powered by the M2 and the M2 Pro chip. And I did some comparisons between my Mac Mini and the new one. And with the standard M2, which is probably the one that I'll be able to afford, it didn't have as much as an upgrade for me to go ahead and pull the trigger on the new Mac Mini. As for the M2 Pro, it is a slightly larger upgrade for me, but it's also a larger purchase that I won't be able to, put the funds in. So, I did want to talk about these features, the specs that they got so far, and just share my thoughts on the whole thing. Starting with the Mac Mini, yes, the M2 will have a 8-core CPU and a 10-core GPU. It's also going to have up to 24 gigabytes of unified memory and 1,000 gigabytes of memory bandwidth. So essentially, you are going to have like a gigabyte connection with your internet if you have gigabyte internet like I do. As for the memory, for the most part, I believe that's going to be you can upgrade it up to that many gigabytes of memory, but that's of course going to cost you a lot more. As compared to the M2 Pro, you are getting the 12-core CPU and up to 19-core GPU with a 32 gigabyte of memory maximum and 2,000 gigabytes of memory bandwidth. So essentially, with the M2 Pro on the Mac Mini, you're going to get a really big upgrade. It's going to be faster, it's going to perform better, it's going to be more smooth, it's probably going to download and upload shit like that. Assuming your internet is also on par with that. Aside from that, I don't know if the Mac Mini does come with the accessories. Like, I had to buy the mouse and keyboard separately. I think it's the same thing. That's why it's a budget device. It is cheaper than a standard Mac if you go for the baseline model. They are trying to push that you can do a lot of productivity, a lot of gaming. Yes, No Man's Sky is on its way to Apple. I don't know if it's released now, but if you want to play No Man's Sky on your Apple, you can with the new Mac Mini with the M2. Another big difference between the M2 and the M2 Pro on the Mac Mini is on the M2 Pro, you will get 4 USB-C ports, or as Apple calls them, Thunderbolt 4 ports. So you'll get 4 of them on the M2 Pro, and you only get 2 of them on the standard M2 model. Me personally, I would probably need the M2 Pro for the extra USB-C ports. So that's kind of like a difference there. Other than that, you will still get 2 USB-A ports, the HDMI port, the Ethernet, and the power port. Moving on from there, of course, they want you to get the Apple monitor because it's going to look better on there, but you don't really need to buy it, so you do have to get your monitor and your keyboard separate and your mouse. But there's not much else to the Mac Mini from there. And as I said before, if I do go for the standard M2, it's not a big upgrade for me, and my trade-in is only worth like $200 and something, and you only get that back after they receive your product. So you still got to pay the full price for the device, and then they give you the money back from your trade-in. So if you can go ahead and pull the trigger on that, that's on you. As for the MacBook Pro, I do believe that it's only going to be a 14-inch. I could be wrong. I'm going to take a quick look here at that. In terms of the specs, though, with the M2 chip, the difference here, which doesn't make much sense to me, the desktop Mac Mini has M2 and M2 Pro. But the MacBook, a freaking laptop, has M2 Pro as the standard and an M2 Max as the, premium option. Now, of course, with the M2 Pro, as before, 12-core CPU, 19-core GPU, 32 gigabytes of memory, and 2,000 gigabytes of memory bandwidth. Whereas on the Max, you are still getting a 12-core CPU, but you are also given the option for a 38-core GPU and up to 96 gigabytes of memory. I don't know who needs 96 gigabytes of memory, but that is a lot. And that's going to be very expensive. I don't want to look at the prices because I'm just going to feel more hurt if I look at the prices of that. But with that, apparently with the laptop, you are able to support 2 external displays. I don't know how many you can support on the Mac Mini, but aside from that, the real upgrade here, honestly, is just with the chips built in. I don't know how much the build of the MacBook differs from the previous model. And as you know, Apple's releasing new stuff, every year, basically. A new laptop, like I think every other year. When it comes to battery performance, you're not going to see any battery performance on the Mac Mini because it has to be plugged in. It doesn't have a battery built in to use on its own. So with the MacBook, apparently there is 2 different sizes, a 14-inch and a 16-inch model. So again, that's going to cost you even more money. But the 14-inch model will give you up to 18 hours of video playback and up to 12 hours of web browsing, whereas the 16-inch model will give you 22 hours of video playback and 15 hours of web browsing. You can also get up to 8 terabytes of an SSD storage. That is a lot. I have a 2 terabyte external, and that's fine for now. I could delete some old shit that I'm not using anymore, but 8 terabytes, dude, that's a lot. I might even do a quick shopping test, see how much it's gonna cost with the Max everything. But it's ridiculous. Of course, you're gonna get the Liquid Retina XDR and the ProMotion, all these fancy words Apple likes to throw at you, which is essentially what they mean is a 4K screen. They just want to use fancy words, how Apple is. I can only imagine that these are going to be a lot faster performance-wise, but it makes me wonder what is the option that will best fit somebody based on their productivity. Would I go for a M2 Mac Mini or try to get the Mac Studio, which came out, I think, last year, which is also expensive, but I don't necessarily need any of that. I'm fine with my Mac Mini as of now. I'm not rich. I'm not making money off of YouTube. So it really is one of those things where, do you really need the upgrade? Marquez Brownlee actually made a video recently about this. I think it was recently, where he was using iPad as an example. And he was like, well, the base iPad is like an iPad, whatever number it is, costs X amount of money. But if you pay that same amount of money, you can get the Mac Air, I think it was. But it would be better performance, but less gigabyte space. So then you go upgrade the gigabyte space. Okay, well, that price tag now is equivalent to the next better iPad. It was the iPad Pro with the less gigabyte space. So he called it like a ladder, where you can take a step higher up and you're going to get something better. But of course, with Apple, you're going to lose something for the same price. And that's kind of what it comes down to. I can upgrade to an M2 Mac Mini and it'll have some better specs, but not too much better. And I'm going to be paying whatever I paid for the last Mac Mini anyway. Difference is mine is already paid off. So why do it again if I don't really need it? So not many other thoughts about that as well. I didn't see the video, so I'll probably watch it later. But I want to actually go through the ordering here for a MacBook. So I'm gonna go through this section right here, and I'm just gonna walk you guys through it so you can see just how crazy Apple is with this. There we go. All right, so we're gonna do the 16-inch MacBook Pro. We're gonna put it at the M2 Max, which is already on its own, as is 16-inch terabyte of SSD, $3,499, or you could finance it for $291.58 a month for 12 months. But it doesn't stop there, right? So it does come with 32 gigabytes of memory. That's all you need. And yet you can upgrade to 64 gigabytes and you are adding an extra $400. You can upgrade it to 96 gigabytes and that is another $400 or $800 from the standard 32 gigabytes. Now, if you want to change your terabyte storage for the SSD, it goes up by $400, $1,000, $2,200. Wow. $6,500 for a laptop. Apple, what are you smoking? Like, I honestly want to know who is actually buying this thing. Like, an average person, an average Joe, who on an average Joe level is buying this expensive computer. I don't think one exists. I think it's more so of like a company buying it for something, or maybe Bill Gates is secretly using one because he doesn't want people to know that he's using Mac. Right? That's insane. With the Mac Mini, I'm gonna try with the M2 Pro, which standard is already $1,300. And if you want to upgrade it to a 12-core CPU and the 19-core GPU, that's an extra $300. 32 gigabytes of memory, extra $400. Put in the 8 terabytes of SSD, that's another $2,400. 10 gigabyte Ethernet is another $100. We don't need to add the Final Cut Pro or Logic Pro. I don't even know what Logic Pro is. And you got a $4,500 desktop. I feel like for that, you might as well get the Mac Studio, whatever it's called, the Mac Mini Studio or whatever. For I think it's cheaper as a base model, I think. It's disgusting how much Apple will charge for their products. Like, it's disgusting. Yeah, a M1 Max standard Mac Studio is only $2,000 compared to what was the Mini? It was basically $5,000. I don't know what else to say about that, honestly. Apple, you're don't get me wrong. I like Apple. I like the products that I use. I have the watch and the phone and the computer, and I use the AirPods and everything. But it's ridiculous, Apple. Who has this money? Like, it's crazy. Let's talk about the HomePod real quick before I end this video. HomePod, I don't really think I need. I have 2 Google speakers in the apartment. They work fine. I don't use them that often anyway. I just use one here for the clock when I'm sleeping. But if you want to get a HomePod to control your house or whatever, if you're that kind of person, it starts at $300. So I really don't know what else to say about that, but Apple needs to chill on the price. But that's my opinion on this thing. Like, Apple is they have some good products, but the price tag and on these things. So if you're gonna buy one of these devices and your name is not Mr. Beast, Marquez Brownlee, your average consumer, Linus Tech Tips, if you're an average person like me and you're gonna buy one of these, let me know which one you're buying and why and how much it's gonna cost you. I'm gonna stick with my Mac Mini. It's still good for another year or two. Hopefully by then I'll get money for the other Mac releases. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking with me. And I'll see you guys next time.